Director with the LHH Leadership Development Practice for Australia and New Zealand. Today, I'll play the role of moderator in engaging with our speakers today. Today's session adopts a panel format where we will hear from three insightful speakers on this very topic. Towards the end of this session, we're going to ask your opinions as well. So feel free to ask questions as well at that time. If we can go to the next slide. Before we begin, on behalf of LHH, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. I recognize that I'm hosting this meeting from the land of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to all elders past, present, and emerging. And I extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people present in this webinar. We will now take a couple of minutes to introduce our speakers. On our panel for today's session, we have James McElvena, MD for Australia, New Zealand, and Singapore, LHH, Cindy Chen, SVP and Head of Adecco Group East Asia, and a very special guest and our client stakeholder, Avinash Baliga, CFO for Vietnam, Thailand, and Asia Frontier Markets at AstraZeneca. Welcome, speakers, and I'd like to briefly hand over to each one of you for a quick introduction. We'll start with James.
Thanks, Nithya. Look, first and foremost, I really appreciate everyone's time. What we want to do is share some insights and some data in order to be able to help drive some activity. I know it's Halloween. We're not looking to scare anyone today, but we are absolutely looking to actually provide some valuable insights in order for people to be able to start planning or evolve their plans when it comes to how you get and enable your leaders to deal with the modern complexities. And I think it's valuable that it's the data, the insights, and the case study coming together. So hopefully you have plenty of great takeaways.
Thanks. Over to Cindy.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon to everyone. This is Cindy from Taipei. And then it's my pleasure to be here. I think now it's not only employer, but also employee are facing uncertainty and interesting market, I would say. We have the AI and technical and all those new stuff coming in. I think it will be very challenging for those of us. So I'm glad to have this opportunity to discuss the point of view from employer and also employee. So, and also have some case study. I hope everybody will enjoy today's section. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And Avinash.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to thank LHS to giving this opportunity to contribute, my experiences we have faced in AstraZeneca, especially in the finance function. Probably during the course of next 1 hour, I hope to share some of the on-ground realities, challenges we faced, and how we are trying to tackle and overcome them. Look forward for the discussions today. Thanks, Nithya.
Thanks, Avinash. Thank you, speakers. So just on the next slide, I'd like to quickly share with you the agenda for today. We will start off by discussing top leadership challenges, as we've identified from our most recent study, The View from the C-Suite. This study reports findings from about a total of 1,502 C-level executives. We will then look at the perspectives of the employee and what they expect from their leaders in the new world of work. We go on to discuss how we bridge the leadership development gap through leading teams effectively. This is where we will hear from Avinash on a great example that brings to life several leadership challenges and the importance of team effectiveness. We then close off by examining LHH's team effectiveness model, and we also invite you to share and participate in a number of polls. So let's start with the view from the top, and this relates to key leadership challenges that we are seeing. James, if I can start with you, can you share more about these challenges as cited by C-suites globally?
Yeah, look, absolutely. So as Nithya just mentioned, I mean, the type of consideration, so what the C-suite are thinking about is critical to us at LHH. And so the survey that we conducted was a little over 1,500 executives, and it was specific to execs with decision-making power over leadership, development and training programs at organisations with 500 plus people. And we surveyed across Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, United States, and drilled down on some of these insights. But what I wanted to do is share with you today from both the perspective of the insights we got from the research and the white paper, but also as a leader myself within a business. So, I am a leader who has got a global president of Total Group and a new global president of the LHH business unit. Both are within the last 2 years have come in with fresh approaches and changes to meet the ever-changing challenges that our business faces. And so within a matrix structure, as a leader, I want to share a couple of things that have made a big impact on me rather than call out each of these challenges that the survey called out. And so there's two that I really want to delve into here. First one is, and Cindy mentioned it in her introduction, it's the impact of digitalisation, AI and Web3. And so Web3, for those not familiar with the term, incorporates concepts such as decentralisation, blockchain and token-based economics. But what are the things, or what are the challenges that, as a leader and from the research are bothering people in this space? And first and foremost, it's the answer to some of these questions. Are we keeping pace? Does our development keep us ahead of our competitors? Do we develop the solutions that are required to keep pace internally, or do we need to find new partners and new ways to source external solutions to new problems? So they're just a few of the challenges that are thrown up, and that then, as an onflow, impacts the way that leaders need to cope with the challenges and what they need from their people. And the other one I'll call out of the 5 main ones shown here is around the evolving expectations when it comes to the future of work. And so as leaders, there are those core business elements that you must deliver. That's the core of what your business does. So for us, it's the delivery of career transition and mobility services and leadership development programs. We must do that. Everything else is ancillary to that. But they are the things that sort of keep the lights on. And so when you begin at the core, how are these things changing? What do we need to do to deliver the services? What's expected of us? And do the people that we have today have those skills to continue evolving and delivering these solutions to stay best in class? And then if we determine that we do have the right people, why are they staying with us? Are we an employer of choice? Are there other offers with competitors that are more compelling? So do you actually have the capability to attract and retain the talent that you need? And even more importantly, are you evolving and creating pathways for learning and the upskilling and reskilling of individuals already within the organisation to meet the challenges ahead? So if we move forward, I just want to talk through some of the things that were cited as the top 10 challenges by C-suite execs. Now, for the astute amongst you, you'll notice we've called out the top 4, not all top 10. But what I did want to do is actually just really highlight that this deficit in human connection is often best shown by engagement surveys. So personally, we run peak-on surveys 3 times a year. As a leader, it gives me an incredibly valuable insight into what people think about what we're doing, where we can improve, and actually how we're supporting them and our customers with the delivery of services. And so some of the things that come up that are sort of benchmarked as being particularly important are, one, it's the link between productivity and engagement. So if you don't have a high engagement level, productivity levels are generally down. It's well researched. I think it's beyond any level of debate now that now C-suite expects, if they see a dip in engagement, that each leader will understand what the drivers are of any dips in engagement, and they have a strategy, a very clear strategy and action plan in order to be able to respond to what employees are saying and asking for. Second one, well-being and burnout. Right, they're themes that have always been around. It seems increasingly so in a post-COVID environment, and I will reference the fact that I know COVID's not completely gone, but by and large, we're not dealing with sort of lockdowns and the same challenges we had in 2020 and 2021. So in the environment we have today, there's an increasingly reported instance of those people who are suffering from well-being and burnout. And so what do leaders need to do? Yeah, how can they possibly, when it always seems that demands on individuals, less resources, more demand on what's being produced, how do leaders look after individuals better? Now, generally that comes from ensuring that there's prioritization of what is most important, but how can you train leaders? How can leaders understand how to go about that prioritization so people don't feel like they're increasingly slipping backwards and more is required of them? And then also, majority don't have 5 days a week or anywhere near it in the office anymore. So that connectivity, those bonds that are built, the incidental learning, so more experienced people passing on their learning to less experienced people in the office environment. How do leaders support and create environments where they can actually increase connectivity within teams, bring them in together for things that are important, particularly around strategy, but also how is knowledge exchange now covered by leaders? And it requires new solutions in the modern environment. And then finally, around diversity and inclusion. So diversity and inclusion has always been around the ability not just to have representation within the workforce, but also to get the best and to include people. And so if people are feeling disconnected, they're not contributing. And the net benefit for leaders of having a diverse workforce is multiple viewpoints to create a more representative product or solution for customers and clients. So it's yet another one that people are seeing a deficit in the human connection and need leaders to have strategies and plans to make up for. So if we move forward, the next thing that was called out was around the need for agility. And so I referenced at the start as I led into this, whether that is, new leader, new global president, new strategy, changing environment in which you're doing business, inevitably managing change and the need for leaders to manage change is widespread. And so it needs a very specific mindset. And so a couple of the examples that come through in creating that demand in leaders is one, global change decisions need to be delivered and leaders need to deal with the impact on their team. So think about initiatives like cost reduction initiatives, offshoring or nearshoring initiatives, merger and acquisition, or new CEOs with a new strategic direction. Secondly, leaders need to be able to, and showed up, leaders need to be able to change to adapt with a move to more agile operating models. So that doesn't mean agility to deal with the external environment. That means agile work teams and different ways of working with less of the old hierarchy internally and that mobility of people across project teams. The need to deal with technology rollouts and adoption of new and automated processes. And then finally, audits and certifications that impact business processes. So there's increasing requirements for data security, privacy requirements, which actually create the need for change and understanding of leaders on how they're going to get their people to understand and adapt to new processes. And then finally, it's that lack of clarity component. So, often for leaders, particularly frontline or early stage leaders, they're promoted after being a really good individual contributor. And the reward for being an amazing individual contributor is they get their first opportunity because it's part of the promotion ladder moving into a leadership role. But there are some key requirements. And so the data showed that 70% of those leaders lack the skills they need in the first 18 months in taking on a new role, unless you have interventions to help them with it. And so what are the key things, the most important things for those newer leaders, for all leaders, but particularly newer leaders? It's around attracting and retaining talent. It's around adequately assessing employees. And by adequately assessing employees, I don't mean putting them through assessments or through 360s. I mean, it's actually understanding the skills and capabilities you have within your team. And then a lack of investment or buy-in to leadership development, that being the ability to actually help people train, evolve, and upskill for the demands of their job. So these were the main three things that were called out. And whether that's for first-time leaders or whether it's for more senior leaders, these are almost the building blocks of a successful leadership.
Thanks, James. You've actually given us a number of examples in terms of how these challenges play out in the workplace, and also some practical insights on what leaders need to do to deal with the deficit in human connection, to manage to the lack of clarity, and to be more agile. So thank you for those insights. Now let's look at the employee's perspective. One thing that is required today more than ever is, of course, great leadership. Great leadership helps us make sense of complexity, supporting teams, and also helping to make decisions. Therefore, the voice of the employee into what constitutes great leadership is really important to lean into. So I'd like you, for those of you listening into today's call, reflect, sorry, if you can just go to the slide prior, just before this, yeah. If you can just reflect on 2 or 3 qualities that you expect of your leader. Feel free to pop that into chat as we progress. But at this stage, I'd like to now pass to Cindy, and Cindy's going to share with us what's the ask of employees of their leaders. Cindy?
Is that all right now?
Yes, perfect. Can
All
hear
right.
you now. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think we are in the moment in a very exciting moment, I would say it. And then I think all the leaders are also the employee of the company. So as we can imagine that, I think our employee environment is quite different from before. So it's not only employer is in worry, but also employee are also in a very worried situations. So as I mentioned, technology and also talent shortage and giving the new challenge for the employer and but also employee. So as we can imagine that right now we have a full generation are working together in the company. So the challenge is not only from the technology, the new skill, but also coming from how to deal with senior people or the peers. So 4 generations, I won't say they are differences, but they are some kind of a hierarchy or differences. However, they are coming from different society and different growth background. So that makes people need to be understanding more instead of challenging each other more. So in the new world, I think the number one, trust. I think people like to be trusted. A survey says like, if the boss trusts more employee, the employee feel like they can do things better. But trust sounds like simple, like I trust you. So what's the trust means? Meaning like I trust you as you are the talent and you can do what you are assigned to do and you have the talent to help the company to grow. So this kind of trust is not like, okay, I trust you in a verbal way. It is the way like, do I engage you? Do I give you responsibility? So people like to be trusted and like to feel they are important. The second one is empathy. I think a good leader is not only taking care of the business, that's also need to take care of people. So, but traditional leaders are easily to say, I need to give you the higher target because I want to develop you. And then they tend to be like a weekly review and a lot of a discussion about the performance. But not many leaders would sitting down and to talk to people, having some coffee shop, or taking care of their family, or maybe learn some challenges they are facing and try to having some solution to help them. So empathy become a very good skill for the leaders, and that is what employee needs as well. And that's talking about the career talk, right? So I think everybody working in the company, we are hire the best person when we hire them as an employee. So we thought they are the best talent we have at the moment. But after a certain period of times, the leaders usually will say, I don't have the talent in my team. And why is that? It's that people need to be discussed about their career talk. It also related to whether company has a clear career path to train our leaders to have career discussion. It's not many leaders know how to present performance reviews and also career talk. So leaders need to be trained, because nowadays, I think especially for young generation, they are asked for a transparent and also a fairness career path. So they need to see what is my next step. So we also encourage that leaders need to talk to our candidate or maybe your employee, like what will be the next? What kind of skill do you need? And in order for you to go next. So I think employee, they are able to wait and learn, but without right directions, they kind of don't know where to go. So when you have a competition to approach them, I think they will easily to feel like competitor probably feel I'm more important than how do you feel. So they will left the company. I think that is very pity. So we encourage also all the leaders starting to having the conversations to learn how to have a career conversation with our employee. And the last one definitely will be the well-being. I think after pandemic, there's a lot of hybrid workings, working from home, so remote workings. I think people are less contacts in persons. And it doesn't mean like we have to work together in the office to generate the culture or the cooperations, but you also feel like how are we going to taking care of people's well-being and let people feel we are together and we are in the same team. And I also feel like to long time remote working or hybrid workings without other well-being or activities to meet people together, you will also distance from the employee. I think that is also one of the important issues, and employee like to be feel important and like to be feel belongings. May I have the next page, please? So followed by those four expectations, now comes to reliable. I think reliable is rely on whether we have the culture, that everybody share the same culture to embrace everybody in the team. So we can trust our leader in person, but if we don't trust a company as a team, as an environment, so they don't talk and they don't share their through feelings, and that will make the leaders to have a misunderstanding of people. And then if people cannot talk, it will also means like you will have less innovations and or less cooperations. And the next one, we're talking about the inclusion. I think ESG become very important now for all the companies. I think environmental and social responsibility and also governance. I think environmental and governance is most easily and companies' point of view. But however, social responsibility, especially for diversity and inclusion, my personal feel it is the most difficult part, because that is no measurement. The measurement will come from everybody in the team. So to welcome diversity and inclusion, we need to do something within purposely. You are not expecting like you hire different people and things can be done. I think a company need to also organize things and to make it real and announce it to everybody's and to embrace the D&I environment and also the culture in the company. Some survey also mentioned like with the diversity and inclusions, the company would perform much better than in finance results and also innovations. So I think some companies, big companies, in order to fit the KPI of ESG, so they are purposely to say, okay, I need to hire 2 female managers, I need to hire 1 male director or something. But I also feel like the D&I is like to embrace for everyone and to give everybody an equality opportunity to growth. It's not another KPI to having certain people on the certain seats. The next one I want talking about is the future of champion, the future for the company. You know, people spend 10 years or 20 years or sometimes 30 years in a company. They are looking for a company can help them to grow within a company. Like myself, this is my 30 years with Adecco. And I believe Adecco give me a lot, and then I have learned a lot from the company. So 94% of people, as I mentioned, like if a company is able to develop them, they are willing to continue to serve at the same company. I think people don't want to shift the company and just because for fun. You know, so some people might say nowadays, young generation, they like to experience different life. But I think if you put career in front of them, I think they really cared about the career. The reason why they left the company is just like they don't feel cared. And especially we have mentioned the 4 generation in the same company. So how are we going to let our senior colleagues to adopt digital transformation? I think that is a majority very challenging, but that is a company's responsibility. I do believe 94% of people say they are willing to learn, but whether company will give them opportunity or not. So think about those colleagues to sitting next around us. If we think about their own future, and then we provide the right training and also the right career upskilling and reskilling, I think they are the one who has a rich experience of and also the business know-how of our company. So with that, we are able to have a win-win situation. And if we're talking about the young generations, so young generations, they actually are looking forward for the longer-term career if the company is made them shine. So how to make that happen? They are all digital born native. So how can we use their technology skill to combine with the senior colleagues, their experience, to make the company to having the better digital transformation to win the market in the next, in the future. And the last one would be ethical. I think especially young generations and Generation Z, they are especially cared about the ethical. They want the society or the group, people to be better, and people can be having a nice life, and also the right career. So their request for their boss and the company to run an ethical company is important. No matter how, I think now a leader is a lot of challenges, because leader is also the employee. As I mentioned, we are the human being. We are facing a lot of uncertainty, but the leaders need to make different decisions. When we have to make a different decision, sometimes we do not know the answer. So the ethical will come the first to make at least company to be proud and every employee to be proud. So I think employees' expectation is very clear, just like whether a company, a leader are listening. If we are listening and we are able to retain the best employee in our company. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. That's really helpful. And you've just sort of, brought to life a number of these 8 characteristics that employees expect of their leaders. And I'm sure a number of these are resonating with folks on the call as well. Some of these, as you spoke to, around trust, empathy, clarity, as mentioned by a few of the listeners on the call, these are not new concepts, but I feel like they have been amplified in the new world of work, as you've explained. Just a quick question, and we've got a great question in chat. And the question reads, if the team manager has worked in a company for over 20 years and sticks to their own management style, which is not really expected of the employee, pretty much work focus. How do we really manage to that? What might be some advice, Cindy, that you'd give this leader?
All right. I think, number one, I think if a company was giving the new informations or new thoughts to the employee or not, because as some leaders may have a trainings, they attending the new conference, have a new consultant to support them to having the new idea about what happened in the future of the work. But most of times, those services are not reached to the non-manager level. So they actually are doing whatever they have done, they contribute in the last 20 years. But certainly we feel like 20 years of contribution, it was not there. It's not fitting for the future. So I do believe that educations to having the mindset and to lead that employee to see what's going on out there. And then they have to change their mind from fixed mindset into growth mindset. So it is not easy to say so, but the minimum, if he still want to develop himself in the company, we need to give him or give her a space. And then, and actually we also need to give the advice for the particular employee. It's like, welcome or embrace the technology. It doesn't mean that you have to do the coding things. It's like, if yesterday you used the Excel and tomorrow you will use the system, and you should contribute your rich experience to enable that system to become useful. And then you probably can raise your hand and say, like, I am willing to try, and then you give me more time. And, you know, he maybe will find it will be easier to do things than before he has created Excel. So it is about the mindset change, and that is a company's responsibility to taking care not only not only the leaders, especially for top leaders, but also the employee. They need to have the new mindset to see the things. So that is my advice.
Thank you, Cindy. Love what you said, you know, adoption of a growth mindset, the mindset shift, and also your point around giving the space for both the employee and the leader to really understand what's going on there with that resistance as well.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks, Cindy. Let's now hear from Avinash from the AstraZeneca story. And Avinash is going to really help to bring a number of those challenges that we've heard to life as well. So Avinash, share with us, what was the situation or challenge that your leaders were facing?
Thanks, Nithya. And just before I jump in, because I saw this question from Mabel, which was one of our burning issues as well, Mabel. What we implemented was something called as reverse mentoring with cross-functional leadership team. So my own finance team would actually pick up a different leader in the organization and share them the feedback on what is not working, what are the areas of improvement, and really brainstorm what can we do better. So that breaks the barrier of employee and manager if they're not easy to speak up, and it really encourages cross-functional thinking and enterprise leadership. So something you can take back. Sorry, Nithya, I was just tempted to answer that. So let's come back and let me share you my personal experience of what we went through. Not very different from what you have heard from James or Cindy, but some specific examples which could resonate to your organization or your function. So I would like to go back in time before COVID. This was back in 2017, 2018, when our function in finance was going through a finance transformation, which meant that the team size in the markets or in the countries were getting leaner and leaner, and we were centralizing a lot of our work, processes and systems in hubs. So this obviously led to both, good ways of working. This was the new ways of approaching processes and centralizing, but also had some cons or downsides, which meant that a lot of our experience, credibility, comfort zone within the market was taken away. So you can imagine some stakeholder from business coming to my finance team and like quickly having a coffee chat Can you show me this? Where am I on my budget? Where am I on growth? Can you help me with this? So all that luxury was taken off, and they had to now reach out to somebody unknown in a virtual space, to a central team within Asia. So this led to a lot of drop in team morale, if I have to say, because they said, oh, will this model really work? How do you expect they to gain that market experience? How will somebody sitting remotely will really understand my business requirement? And the team confidence, both the newly formed finance team as well as the stakeholders, was a bit on a declining mode. So the expectations increased 2 times. Can we really deliver, and we ensure there's no business disruption? And as and when we evolved, obviously we overcame those challenges. The COVID hit us, right? And as and when the teams were building that relationship with hybrid model or virtual model, everybody was in a lockdown. Being a pharmaceutical company, and just like any other industry, we had to maintain some critical ongoing support, which mean some of the team members had to step out, sleep in the warehouse to ensure invoicing was done, and they sleep in the offices. They were not able to go out for a week or 2 weeks or something like that. So obviously it disturbed and created a lot of chaos, but things had to be done, which meant the overall well-being, some of those team engagements and the bonding which used to happen dropped significantly. Efficiency and productivity was probably a mixed bag. We saw some pockets where we could see a little bit more free time. People always complain traveling to work. Oh, now I save a couple of hours every day. I can spend this time with my family and things like that, and they were more effective. But it also meant we lost track of our time management, endless meetings from one call to another call without taking break, and obviously it started affecting. Post-COVID, we returned to work. Again, as Cindy and James touched, it's a new ways of working now. Employees' expectations are quite high in terms of their well-being. They say, if I can avoid an hour worth of travel to work, I'd rather do this work back from home. Even if it's a meeting, can I join virtually and things like that. So the expectations have changed a lot. One more critical thing that happened probably within our finance and AstraZeneca was during the lockdown for almost 2 years, 3 years, people really didn't move because of obviously mobility issues. Once the lockdown opened up, everybody was like jumping onto new roles and they wanted to switch, take up some new promotions. Everything was on hold, right, for almost a couple of years. And that also created a bit of turbulence within the teams, because what was done over the last 2-3 years, then they were either expecting a new leader in their function, or the new employees rotating with some lateral moves or attrition. So this was a very similar situation, even within AstraZeneca leadership at finance level. Half of our CFO positions within Asia were new, either from external hires or through movements within AstraZeneca. So this definitely posed a lot of challenges touching on the people side of things, whether it had to do with productivity, efficiency, team morale, and inclusion. So some of these challenges, Nitya, as a finance team, we had to tackle this in the last 3 to 5 years.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Avinash. So when you share about the leaders, and Cindy referred to the mindset shift earlier, what was the mindset shift that leaders needed to sort of adjust around and to also lead their teams through this process? The number of disruptions and emotions and lots of things going on at the same time. So what was that mindset shift required? What do they need to do differently?
Yeah, I think I would say now for the last 3 to 4 years, mostly it has been a virtual world. I'm based in Vietnam, but I manage 6 or 7 countries based in Vietnam. I've not met my Thailand team for almost 2 years. You can imagine what it means if I was not able to travel. So what it meant was team engagement was super important. It's, with virtual 30 minutes call. It was very sharp start to end, and we were just stuck to business. The usual chit chats in office, whether it's a lunch break or a coffee break or some corridor talks or gossips, were all gone. So at a personal level, the connect was missing. So as leaders, the first thing we had to do was just come back and see how we can start engaging the teams beyond our work, beyond our deliverables and budgets and forecasts and everything, right? So that personal connect was super important. And probably I'll go on to answer how we handle this, right?
Yes.
So the first thing we did post lockdown was we got entire leadership of Asia Pacific. We made sure we put our laptops away for a couple of days. We locked ourselves in a room, and it was going back to classroom to really understand, deep dive, what can we do better. We're not saying everything was chaotic or we were not operating. Everything was functioning still as we expected, but it was missing something, right?
Yes.
The Zen effect, if I have to call, right? So we had to sit down, brainstorm, and that's when probably we brought in your firm and to navigate our thinking and thought process, doing some of those bottom-up surveys, what it really means to us in terms of trust, credibility, relationship building, and we came out with some real concrete plans. I think that which we still live by every day now, and it's a journey, as I said. So we are in that implementation phase to move towards that end goal.
Fantastic. And very quickly, Avinash, there's a question in chat which I think sort of can get some advice from you as well, because it asks. So Ted's asking about when companies become leaner or flatter in structure, which I suppose has happened in this instance with the finance team, where it's a lot leaner with the finance transformation. How do you, career progression or promotion may seem a little bit more limited. So what sort of advice do you have for people leaders on guiding employees with this?
I think one positive outcome post-COVID, if I have to see, is right now the physical presence is not the criteria. Some of our work can still be like regional roles, which can be managed from your home or base country, right? I think that's a little bit of flexibility that has opened up. So what we are encouraging teams now is, you can sit here and still do a regional role. You don't have to live there. You can travel once a month. You can spend a week there, and things. I think the COVID gave that base, to be honest. Everybody thought, it can't work. But now everybody has, they're signed off to the fact that, this can work now. So this has opened up a lot of opportunities for the employees to look beyond their existing base country roles. And I'm a good example, right? As I said, I look after many countries. I don't need to be based in a particular country, and I keep moving. And same goes with my team, my procurement team, some of my analysts are doing this multitasking cross-country roles, and that keeps them on edge. They try to embrace that. I'm no longer just restricted to Vietnam. I'm able to support Malaysia or Singapore or Taiwan from based out of here. So I think so this is probably something which you can evaluate. Obviously, it depends on your organization career roadmap, but definitely something you can explore in the long run.
Thank you so much, Avinash. That's great. Your what you've shared, I think, is incredibly informative, and I'm sure it's providing a lot of further questions and valuable insights for people on the call. So thank you again for your generosity in sharing the AstraZeneca story.
Pleasure, Nithya. Thank you.
All right, so let's now take a few minutes to understand why team effectiveness is the way to go and what it means to lead teams effectively. All our speakers have spoken to this, so I'll be pretty brief with this section. The reason why we've started to focus on teamwork is because the nature of teams and the way we operate in teams has shifted significantly. Noticeable shifts include several of these that you're seeing on this slide. For example, setting up teams for success is more important than ever. There are also more teams, there are more meetings, and there are more people in those meetings. Team boundaries are pretty blurred out, and it's also quite fluid and dynamic. Teams, I think as Avinash shared, they're spending less time face to face with each other. So this is also changing the way teams build trust and communicate and collaborate and so on. There's also a lot of pressure on teams to build high performance and innovate and problem solve. But the reality is teams often underperform because they don't have enough resources. I think all the speakers talked to hybrid ways of working and how that's resulted in a lot more flexibility and makes workers quite happy. But also there is that psychological workload that comes with coordinating hybrid working. And finally, multi-teaming is a new normal. So if I think about the number of teams I'm in, it could be about 8 or 10. For example, senior leaders might be working on as many as 25 different teams. So there is a need for a clear definition of what a team is and also that social identity of a team. So let's have a quick look at the LHH team effectiveness model, which really unpacks the three constructs required of leaders to lead their teams effectively. First of all, belonging. This is the ability of leaders to cultivate a high degree of trust and psychological safety within the team. Second, purpose. This is about why we do what we do as a team. What's our connection to the overall strategy? And finally, agility. This is ways of working. How do we adapt as we go? How do we share ownership and decision making as well? So just on the next slide, there are many different teams that you might belong to, and there are also many different situations you might find yourself in. You might be in a new team, or you might be in a team that's working really well, and it probably just needs a boost to sort of build and keep that momentum going. You might be in a team which is sort of struggling at the moment, and it sort of needs a little bit of a recharge there to enhance the team dynamics. Or you might be in an executive team or a senior leadership team where there's a need for some alignment and focus. So self-awareness is really the starting point. So at this stage, I'd like to also invite you to participate in a few polls that we will run. We will capture your reflections as we go. Also, feel free to pop in any questions. We'll try to answer them as we progress. So with the first poll, this is on belonging. Each of these polls have 5 statements. So you'll see them pop up just on the screen. So take 1 or 2 minutes to just note down your reflections, and you can choose more than one option as we go. So which of these do you or your teams find most challenging? And we're looking at the belonging construct. So the first one around creating a culture of trust, respect, psychological safety. The second one, celebrate, appreciate individual differences. Third one on providing opportunities for social connection, interaction, encouraging feedback and dialogue, and finally, proactively addressing issues of bias, discrimination, and exclusion. So feel free to pop in your thoughts there. Cool. And if we can show the results, team. Fantastic. So it does look like, their majority, I think 53% and 50% not far off with feedback and dialogue. So 53% creating a culture of trust, respect, and psychological safety. I might just throw to one of the speakers, perhaps James, with regards to, and you spoke to this earlier about the deficit in human connection as well as that lack of clarity. What advice do you have for leaders to be able to create a culture of trust, respect, and psychological safety?
Yeah, I think it begins with that. If you get straight into task focus in establishing a new team, you don't allow that space to build the trust first. And so some of the simple tips and tactics for team leaders is actually spending the time up front to provide the clarity of purpose, but then also a team charter and some team rules or guidelines around how this new team is going to operate. And so some practical examples are, you're assuming everyone comes from a background of positive intent. So nothing is taken personally or a criticism, right? Setting up some of these ground rules for a new team is critically important in people feeling like that the content and communications within the team will be monitored by leaders within the team, and everything will be respectful debate. And then that also links to the second highest response here, which is setting that boundary allows greater feedback and greater dialogue, because it can be free exchange once those norms around how you're going to interact are created.
Thanks, James. Sounds good. If we can now bring up the second poll, please. This is on purpose. So again, you'll see 5 statements. Feel free to choose more than one. Which of these do you or your team struggle with? So the first one's on clarity of why our team exists, what roles each one of us plays. We recognize how the work each of us does contributes to the overall strategy. We operate on common ground. This is about having shared values, shared understanding. We set individual and team goals regularly. And finally, we often engage in the discussion to articulate and agree on the why of our team. So feel free to pick one or more of these options with regards to where your team struggles. Just give it a few seconds. All right, thanks. If we can just show the results, please. Great. So here it looks like quite diverse views there with the one on setting individual and team goals regularly. It comes back to those, again, it ties back to feedback and dialogue, doesn't it, with the belonging construct. But it also looks at, that regular communication to align for success. I think I just want to ask Avinash here a question, because it relates, Avinash, to your challenge earlier around having that consistent purpose. And, when you've got a dynamic work environment, things are changing all the time. It is difficult to align your efforts with a moving target. So how did your teams manage to communicate around this, or your leaders?
Good insight here, right? I'm not surprised from what I hear. I think we face this as well. I think a lot of times the business is so dynamic. I think fundamentally the key to this is communication. So we moved away from a yearly performance review to half yearly, and now we have something called as a quarterly check-in. And somewhere this had to be done top down, because if we leave this at the discretion of managers and employees, we know how disciplined we are to follow up, right? It just doesn't work. So we have now a formal process of quarterly, and we don't call it feedback, we actually call it as feed forward, because we don't just discuss the past, but we look after what's happening in the future. If any strategy has changed at a leadership level, which the employees are not clear of, or if my team is not clear of, and what needs to be done, to ensure they are aligned with the purpose and the goals. So I think, to be honest, it's a communication and discipline in terms of quarterly. I do this very diligently with my team. I've gone from quarterly to monthly. You might say, oh, that's too much of micro, but trust me, we don't have to discuss business all the time. Some of these monthly catch-ups are more like a temperature check for me on how employees are doing. And if they have any concerns, they would like to share. But we stopped calling it as feedback now. We just use the word feed forward, and we share what the the future looks like. So something that we have implemented, Nitya.
Thanks, Avinash. And that brings us to the last poll, because what you shared about feed forward, I think ties in very nicely to being agile as well and looking forward, not just at the past. So if I can ask all of you on the call to quickly, choose more than one if you want to, but have a quick read of which of these are top of mind for you with regards to agility. First one around reviewing past successes and failures to help us be more open to novel ideas. Allowing time for reflection is very much part of that agility as well. Implementing team habits for more agile ways of working. Continually evolving and adapting. I think that again speaks to the point Avinash made about feed forward, and continually learning from existing projects and developing our capability to keep up with evolving needs. Great. If we can show the results, please. Yep. Fantastic. So top of mind, fantastic. So we continually evolve and adapt. How we work to be more effective is at 60%, and 62% continually learning from existing projects and developing our capabilities as well. So giving yourself and that cadence around team meetings to reflect on successes, but also lessons learned, kind of goes back, I think, Cindy, to your point around the growth mindset factor and injecting it in as well. So if I can just wrap up, and if we go to the final slide on key tips, please. I'd like to just leave you with these key tips as we've just got a minute to wrap up now. With belonging, reflect on what gets in the way of connection and collaboration, exploring team meeting rhythms to include crucial conversations, and think about team habits as well. For example, a belonging habit could be for the next month, instead of just getting into our day-to-day or the to-do list, let's take a few minutes to just reconnect personally as well. With purpose, examine your team's current purpose. Think about, when your team is most energized and engaged as well. And finally, with agility, I think all our speakers spoke to this quite a bit about the growth mindset, ways of working, reviewing successes, but also lessons learned, and encouraging fresh perspectives, not just within your team, but across and external. So with that, thank you everybody for your time. I think we are at the close of the hour. So thank you for attending. We will be in touch with you on our latest insights on this topic. In the meantime, please answer our post-event survey, which will appear when we close the event. Have a great afternoon, rest of the morning, everybody. And thank you, speakers, for your time.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Everyone, good day.